think that argument need to take up at the center stage in UNHRC. Probably the suppressed nations or the nations that are occupied will get a chance to talk about our rights rather than suffering under the genocidal regimes. I think though his paper is pretty much important, and his work is really a laudable one. And we look forward that argument takes central place in UNHRC on right to self-determination, and that can able to open the gate for us to have where our children and women can live peacefully.
Yeah, a quick comment.
Very quick comment, with your indulgence. Thank you. I was not expecting to speak from the floor, but in any event, I'm here, and I've been listening to some of your presentations. As you know, my report 2014 to the General Assembly, A/69/272, is devoted entirely to the right of self-determination and to the realization of self-determination as a strategy of prevention of conflict. I laid out 15 criteria, paragraphs 63 to 77, in which I explained the various modalities. Who can claim self-determination? Who's entitled to self-determination? How can you claim it? Before whom? And also which are the minimum conditions so that you can achieve self-determination, whether it be internal, in the form of federalism, in the form of autonomy, or external, in the form of secession. Problem has been over the last 72 years since the end of the Second World War is that we have seen hundreds of wars, the source of which was a denial of self-determination. That is why the consciousness of the Human Rights Council about self-determination is not sufficiently awake, not sufficiently aware that if you want to have peace, local, regional, and international peace, you must address these claims of self-determination in a timely fashion, not allow that a situation festers into conflict and then armed conflict, sometimes successfully, because we have seen struggles for self-determination that have succeeded, but we've seen others that have ended with genocide, in which the minority has been massively liquidated. And that is what we have a responsibility to prevent. And the United Nations has in the past used its good offices. And I have asked the current Secretary General to use his good offices on behalf of the many peoples living under occupation, the many peoples who are non-self-governing, the many peoples who have a legitimate claim to self-determination, so that their grievances are addressed and a solution is found that is consistent with the United Nations Charter, which repeatedly talks about self-determination. Consistent with Article 1 of the Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, consistent with Article 1 of the Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, consistent with thousands of resolutions of the General Assembly, of the Security Council, of the Commission on Human Rights, of the current Human Rights Council. But once again, I'd like to appeal to civil society, as I do when I present my reports. Do use the reports, do rely on them. I mean, we do write reports so that they are useful to somebody. And I am dismayed, and as I have said publicly, we, independent experts and rapporteurs, are in a way an assembly of Cassandras. We warn that there's going to be conflict. We try to be early warning, but nobody listens. And if civil society doesn't take up our reports and demand with their governments that action be taken, we're not going to make any progress. And at this very moment, we see conflicts in many parts of the world I mean, I have enormous sympathy for the rights of the Sahrawis, for the rights of the Bubis, the Bubi people of Equatorial Guinea.
Yes.
Totally forgotten.
Yes.
The Kashmiris, the Kurds, back at the end of the First World War, they had aspirations to have their own nation. After all, 40 million human beings that were denied self-determination at the end of the First World War. And how many other peoples in Africa, when the policy of decolonization of Africa was put into place, they kept the artificial frontiers that the colonizers had made, thereby leaving ethnic and religious groups on both sides of frontiers, which in the next 10, 20, 50 years are going to cause a lot of trouble in the world. So once again, my appeal, and you as NGO people can do so, you can insist with your governments and with other non-governmental organizations so that self-determination be again a permanent item in the agenda of the Human Rights Council. You will remember the Human Rights Commission had a permanent item on self-determination. That was done